This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to you. I'm here with my man, Tony Crow. We're going to talk about a couple of topics and then let you get on with your night. We're going to talk about Zach Lavine, the Knicks monitoring Zach Lavine. We'll talk about Julius Randle, his bid to be an all-star, and we'll get into some discussion about Evan Fournier and whether or not he's back in the rotation for good. So before I even jump all the way into it, I do want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, we have tickets for sale. In the description of this video, you can find a link where you can get tickets for the Knicks versus the Washington Wizards in Washington, D.C. Come join us. That's January 13th, just about 2 weeks away, week and a half away. And then you got the Knicks versus Toronto Raptors on Martin Luther King's Day, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you get your tickets now. There's a link in the description of the video. It's also tagged into the YouTube chat, pinned to the YouTube chat. Make sure I get my words right. Tony, what's poppin' with you, brother? How you feeling?
What's good, Sim? Shout out to the chat. Yeah, your black is time. Just happy to be here, share the screen with you. I missed a couple of streams, so
No doubt, man.
Had to make this one happen.
No doubt. Let's do it, man. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Zach Lavine. We'll kick off with that. Because according to Michael Scotto from Hoops Hype, the Knicks will continue or are continuing to monitor Zach Lavine, right? They're looking for a star, and they're monitoring Zach Lavine and the situation in Chicago. What's your thoughts, Tony, on the whole Zach Lavine thing? And is he the guy the Knicks should go after? Is he the star the Knicks should go after? I'm not totally convinced. See, I'll get into it and explain my part, but I want to hear what you think.
My bad. My cat was scratching my Timbs up. All right. Almost lost it. I like Zach Lavine, but I don't think he is the right piece for us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of things that I take into account. Obviously, the whole Donovan Mitchell debacle, right? We don't know exactly what was up for on the table, what was off the table, how far they were willing to go or not.
Right.
But my hope would be Lavine costs less than Donovan Mitchell, right? So I don't want to get into a scenario where it's out in the open and they're negotiating and they're saying this guy's off the table. They don't want to do this. They're willing to do that. So that's where it gets fishy to me. So I guess ultimately the cost is the main thing that I'm worried about with a guy like Lavine or a guy like anybody. Because I was one of the people that was okay with them not getting Mitchell, depending on what the cost was. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just give up everything for one guy.
Right.
And we don't know truthfully what it was. So I was just like, as a Knicks fan, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and see,
you know what I mean?
With Zach Lavine, the cost may come more in players that you have to move than draft picks. Because he makes, when the Knicks were trying to get Donovan Mitchell, right? Donovan Mitchell, $30 million this year, 30.1 $30.9 million this year, $33 million next year, 35.4 the year after that, and then a player option for 37. When you're talking about Zach Lavine, his contract is much bigger. All right, he's at 37 this year, 40 next year, 43 the year after that, 45.9 and 25-26, and then a team player option for 48.9. Right? So this year, I mean, their contracts are a little bit closer. And when you're making that trade, you're making that trade with the current, with this year, with the money that he's making this year. Right? So Zach Lavine is at 37. Donovan Mitchell is at 30 for this year. So the Knicks, they got to add a little bit more in salary in order to make it work.
But when I say cost, I'm talking about draft capital more than anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we can move guys that have been out of the rotation and match up and get Lavine. So if that's the case, you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm all for it.
Right.
But when you start talking about rotational pieces and a multitude of draft picks, no. I'd rather do the same thing you did with Mitchell and wait for the right move as opposed to making a move to make the move. And then again, automatically the comparisons are going to be made. They didn't make the Mitchell move. They made the Lavine move. If you're choosing between one of the two, I think obviously 71 points taken out of the equation.
Right.
Donovan Mitchell is still the better player, the more proven player, the guy who's been in the playoffs throughout his career, performed in the playoffs throughout his career. You know what I mean? You know what you were getting with Mitchell. I think Lavine, you're still hoping. It's still a mystery. You know what I mean? You hope he's, and I haven't seen him be the guy that you kind of. Let's say you're down 5, you're down 10, and you're saying give him the ball,
right?
And he's gonna, he's gonna do that,
right. And a couple of years ago, I was really big on getting Zach Lavine. I kept saying, "Go get Zach, go get Zach." Part of the reason is because he was making $19 million a year, right? So at that point in time, he had another year left. I was like, "This is the perfect time. Go get Zach." You can see if it works between Zach, RJ, and Randle, and then you can make a decision about Zach Lavine and, what his contract would be. Looking at it now and what his contract is, I don't know if Zach Lavine, first of all, if you're adding Zach Lavine instead of RJ, so if RJ is involved in that trade, I don't know how much better it gets you. I don't know if it takes you to where you eventually want to go. I don't know if he's that kind of star. I don't think that he is. If you're adding him to a core of Brunson, RJ, and Julius Randle, I think that makes you a lot better by adding him to that group. Now you got to figure out the rotations because Quentin Grimes is there in the rotation, et cetera, et cetera. You got to figure that out. You're not paying that guy $37 million to come off the bench. So Quentin Grimes would probably come off the bench because you're not paying RJ Barrett the money he's making to come off the bench either, in my opinion. So if that trade was made, if Quentin Grimes was still on the team, he would probably go to the bench. And I would like to keep Quentin Grimes because you need that perimeter defender because now you'd be substituting defense for offense. You know what I mean? So you would, if you could keep Quentin Grimes so that you can still have him there for, that defensive wing. But trading RJ and bringing back Zach Lavine, because obviously if these talks do heat up, RJ's name is going to come up. I just don't know if it does enough to put the Knicks over the, I don't want to say over the top, but I don't know if it does enough. I'll say.
And this is no knock on RJ. Obviously, I don't want to include him either. But if RJ significantly reduces the draft capital, so now if we're talking RJ whatever players else that makes the salaries match that are non-rotational, and then one pick.
Mm-hmm.
I might consider that, because truth be told, at this point, Lavine is definitely part of my cat. She's wilding right now. Um, RJ, I mean, Lavine is definitely a better player than RJ currently. I think he's definitely the better shooter, the better athlete. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm opposed to moving RJ for Lavine. Again, it has to significantly reduce the draft capital, and then everybody else, the cap filler, has to be the non-rotational players.
Right.
The Rose, obviously going back to the Bulls. Zach Lavine, at that point, probably Cam. So it has to be those type of players that fill the salary.
Right. Right. Now, if let's just say, for example, the Knicks made the move, how much better, and they made the move with RJ involved, how much better are the Knicks with Zach and RJ's no longer there? How much better do you think the Knicks are?
I'm only being honest here. Again, I'm an RJ fan, but I think we would be significantly better for the simple fact that the court is wide open now. You know what I mean? You talking about Grimes on one corner, you talk about Lavine on another corner, you talking about Brunson with room to operate, Randle with room to play that pinch post area, and yeah, I think it does make us significantly better. So I'm not opposed to doing that, but it can't be. We have to be in a position to still make moves moving forward. So one draft pick, you know what I mean? RJ being a centerpiece, cat filler to make the salaries match. But to be honest with you, and I've said this, shameless plug, on Knicks and Bruises earlier, and I've said it before, I am more inclined to go after DeMar DeRozan, who would be significantly cheaper. It wouldn't be a long-term option, it'd be a short-term option, but I think he fits in defensively. Whether, again, we still have the same dilemma. So you may have to either move Grimes to the bench, move RJ to the bench, or I'm not even opposed to having DeRozan be the guy in that second unit that could facilitate, defend. You know what I mean? The spark plug, just do Swiss Army knife type bench player. So I think that would be more feasible for me, because I know we could still be in position to make the big move moving forward. And that could be including DeMar later on. That could be, still including RJ if it needs to be, still having the draft capital. Because I think we could get DeRozan with a couple of seconds.
You think so?
Maybe a protected first and a couple of seconds.
Now, DeRozan's contract is much more digestible. He makes $27.3 million this season, and then he makes $28.6 million next season, right? And so you'd have this season and next season to see what's this look like. And then if it doesn't, exactly. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't look the way that you want it, you can move on from it. You can flip it. You can do whatever it is, that you think that you need to do in that situation. The contract is much more digestible. Listen, if you trade for Zach Lavine, you're making a commitment. I mean,
shout out to Margaret. She's talking about his injury history and frequently in Lavine. You know what I mean? And RJ being more of an Iron Man, current injury excluded.
Yeah. And it may be more. You can probably, with Zach Lavine, they're going to ask for RJ, I think. With DeMar DeRozan, they may not. You know what I'm saying? You may be able, now you may, they may not. I don't think that I think you're gonna have to give up first round draft picks for him though, for DeMar DeRozan.
Protected.
Maybe. If
Protected.
they're willing to take that, because the reason why I say that is because the Knicks would really, if you're trying to keep your team, your good core intact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can trade Rose. That's $15 million that would come off their books for next season.
Which also softens the blow to any fan base
That's true.
issues.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
right. You can trade Cam. That will take
21.
Take money off their books. So in that way, you can help them shed any money for next season, right? So they can be done with his contract and gone. So that definitely helps them. I guess you'd have to find out what they want draft capital wise. You know what I mean?
Even if you're giving up one of the young rotational pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'm not saying Obi, but you know what I mean? That's a nice chunk of salary to kind of finish matching up.
Right.
Right.
And if that's
Quickly,
the case, maybe you can work out some kind of 3-team trade so that Obi goes to Indiana, since they're interested in Obi.
That first goes over there. That potential first that we get from Indiana go to the Bulls.
Yeah, or what we get from Indiana go, whatever kind of draft capital goes to the Bulls, right? You know what I mean? So there could be, I think DeMar DeRozan makes way more sense right now, because I just don't know that Zach Lavine is.
It's big risk, big
level.
reward. That's what it is.
It is, right? Right.
Like, if it goes great, the reward is outstanding. We got our superstar. You know what I mean? If it don't go right, and we've seen,
you made a big
like,
commitment.
come on, Knicks fans, we've seen it not go right, whether it be warranted or unwarranted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go through that again.
You know what I mean? You make a big, and you're making a big commitment. It's not like you're making a small commitment. With DeMar DeRozan, you're making a small commitment. You know what I mean? Now, the thing with DeMar is age. He doesn't really fit into the age group with the guys. Now, he'd be a vet, and if you included Derrick Rose, you'd be exchanging a vet for a vet. So you'd have
a more utilized vet as well.
Yeah. So that would be that doesn't concern me really much. You know what I mean? It's just the argument, I guess, for some people, for Zach, would be, well, he fits,
timeline.
He fits the timeline better. For me, I'm really not as worried about it, because, you bring in DeMar DeRozan, and maybe if you bring in another piece, your timeline changes anyway. You know what I mean? And you got to expect your young guys got to be able to perform. But the best option for me, if the Knicks make a move, is still OG Anunoby. That's the best option for me. If you can find a way, I think you're gonna have to give up some serious draft capital. If Toronto was even interested in moving him, I think you'd have to give up some serious draft capital. But if you consider, let's say you bring in OG Anunoby, you don't have to worry about, if you start him, and maybe this year you say, listen, we kind of got something going with this lineup. Come off the bench, and then we'll look at it for next year. I could see. I don't think he'd have an issue with that, to be honest with you. But let's just say that Tom Thibodeau says, you know what, I'm gonna start the guy. He's still a good wing defender, maybe better than Quentin Grimes, or at least on par. So it's not like you'd be losing the wing defense. And if you still got Quentin Grimes, now you got Quentin Grimes coming off the bench with that wing defense. You know what I mean?
And it keeps the timeline people quiet.
Right.
Like, it fits the timeline.
I mean, he checks the boxes as far as what the Knicks need, I feel like OG Anunoby does. I feel like he really checks the boxes. And if you can find a way to bring him in without giving up Quentin Grimes and RJ, or, either one of those guys, your defense, I mean, you keep your core, he adds to your core, and then your defense can really be suffocating. You know what I mean? And he's another guy that can get you 20 points per game.
I want to highlight a comment, and then I also wanted to go back and say something I wanted to say before the OG comment. And go to this one. He wrote it twice, but OG doesn't make us better than DeMar DeRozan, and he costs more.
OG costs more?
Yeah, he's gonna cost more. Like draft capital. Draft capital.
He will.
You know what I mean? I don't know what he makes. What he makes? 17.
OG Anunoby makes 17 this year, 17.3 this year, 18.6 next year, and then there's a player option for 19.9. I mean, me personally, I think in the long run, OG Anunoby makes you better in the long run. I think you get better in the short term, and I think he makes you better in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Immediately, gentleman is right. Ivory 10, but like you said, in the long term future, long term asset, he definitely, like, we don't know where he's gonna end up in projected wise in his career, but even where he is now, he makes us better than we are now. Maybe not as good as with DeRozan, but you know what I mean? That trajectory is still upward. So we don't know how good he's going to become. So I agree with that. One of the concerns that the Queen had, and I'm paraphrasing, so I don't want to misquote her, but was DeRozan and Lavine actually needing the ball. So I guess what she said was, for Lavine, she thinks we would be more inclined to have to include RJ just because of he's a guy that needs the ball.
Needs the ball, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, kind of the same thing. She just said she didn't really see the fit with DeRozan. My question to you would be, do you see a scenario where we make the DeRozan move and he plays off the bench? In the same, now, I granted he's more of a veteran and more established, but my argument or my thought was the same thing you're saying with OG. And it's like, look, we have something going here. You could come in and we not have to adapt.
Right.
And you come in and mine that second unit. I was under the impression of thinking, because of his veteran, who he is as a veteran, like, he, you know what I mean? He's not gonna sulk about that, or I gotta be a starter and
Nah, I think he would.
What's your take on that?
I think he would, and I agree about people needing the basketball. I think DeMar DeRozan would come off the bench, right? And he's a vet. His contract says one thing. He could be in the Knicks, in the front office's mind, is like, okay, we're trying him out for a couple of years. His contract is digestible. We can move it. We can do this and that. With Zach Lavine, I mean, you're making a commitment. And so it's going to be like, we're not paying this guy $40 million because he makes $37 million that first year. We're not making, this year he makes $37 million. We're not paying him $40 million and we're going to bring him off the bench. And I think that causes an issue when it comes to Zach Lavine. With DeMar DeRozan, it's much less of an issue. You know what I mean? He's a guy who is, I don't want to say, he's reaching the end of his prime. You know what I mean? And so, he's got a different mindset. Zach Lavine is still trying to reach stardom, where DeMar DeRozan is, kind of maybe comfortable with who he is as an NBA player, similar to Derrick Rose. You know what I mean? He's willing to say, all right, I'll come off the bench and man that second unit, and I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? He's still going to get his 30 minutes per game, and he'd get minutes with the starters. And with DeMar DeRozan, too, I think he probably can play off the ball, too. If he's, let's say he did come off the bench, but of course he would get minutes with RJ, Julius, Jalen, and then DeMar DeRozan. I think he can, he would understand, okay, this is my role right now off the ball. The issue is he's not a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Right. So when you
And,
have that
and,
lineup of guys, you have two guys right now. Well, hopefully RJ, before he went out, he was getting better. But you got a lineup of guys where two of them, with RJ and DeMar DeRozan, don't really shoot. Or RJ shoots the three. DeMar DeRozan doesn't really make the attempts.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
His I think he's a good 3-point shooter. He just hasn't adapted in the volume volume
Yeah.
category. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean that would be something that Tom Thibodeau would have to work out. But I think DeMar DeRozan would be willing to come off the bench. I would definitely try to get OG. I don't know what that draft capital would look like, and we know the Knicks have reached out to Toronto about OG, and who knows if there's any kind of if there was any kind of movement or what the discussions were like, if it was just a feeler phone call or whatever, But I can imagine just the guys were getting better every single year, defensively and offensively. It's going to cost something draft capital wise, in my opinion.
And Sim, I missed your last show. When was that? No, yesterday morning. You talked about the trade rumors with Indiana, correct?
Yeah.
And Obi. Were you under the impression that Indiana reached out and they're interested in Obi more than the Knicks shopping Obi?
I think I'm under that impression that they're interested in Obi. He adds to their athleticism. He adds to their speed. You got a guy, you got a point guard there that can find them. You know what I mean? He probably excel there. To be honest with you, that's a good spot for him, I think.
Yeah. From what I read, they said they were intrigued by him, and the pairing of him and Miles Turner. So
Right.
in turn, they would be keeping Miles Turner,
right,
and kind of pairing him. What do you think the fair asking price would be? Because I think I read the Knicks want a first round pick.
I mean, I would want a first round pick
in return, and then obviously salary has to match.
Mm-hmm.
Duarte is obviously having a down year for them. I think he would be on the table at this point, especially with the rise of Mathurin and his his play.
Yeah, I ain't even gonna front. If the Knicks want to, are willing to move Obi, and they can get Duarte, I would do it. I like Chris Duarte. You know what I mean? I think he doesn't bring the athleticism that Obi brings, right? But from that wing position, he can do a lot of things. He can defend, he can shoot a little bit, he can go to the basket. He can do a little bit of a back to the basket game. I think he does a lot of things, man. If they were willing to move Chris Duarte, and the Knicks, if I'm the Knicks and I'm like, okay, our mindset is that we're moving Obi, we're gonna move him to Indiana, and they're willing to part with Chris Duarte, I'm taking him. Yeah, I take him.
I'm a little hesitant. I'll be honest. And I wasn't sold on Duarte coming in, and then obviously his rookie year, I was surprised. I know most people wasn't, like the guys that like yourself that like this game coming into the draft, but I don't know. I'm just, and it's not even the down year that I'm taking into account because I don't watch Indiana. I just happen to know that he hasn't been playing much.
I mean,
but I feel like the fact that we're getting the first, hopefully there's no protections on it or whatever the case like that, or it's like top maybe top 5 protected or something. And then, you know what I mean? I think it's a fair trade.
Mm-hmm.
I just, contrary to popular belief, I am an Obi fan, and I think he still has. I don't think he has to go. I don't think it's him or Randle. I think they can coexist.
Yeah, I think if
Most people don't.
Obi is moved, I'm wondering if that signifies a commitment to we're keeping Randle. He's not.
Oh, I would think
keeping
100% it
right?
does. But do you think that has to be like? All right, better question. Does that how do you say it? Signify? Does that signify that it was one or the other?
I don't know if it means it's one or the other. I don't know if it signifies it's one that we're either going to keep Randle or Obi, because I think they can coexist. But I think they can coexist on the team. I mean, they're coexisting now on the team. Obviously, Obi's minutes aren't. He doesn't get major minutes. I think it says two things. I think it says, one, that it's a commitment to Randle, not because they couldn't coexist, but because if we're moving on from Obi, it's because
38-minute Randle.
Right. It's because we got Randle here. You know what I mean? And if they were moving on from Randle, it would probably mean because we want to move Obi into, we believe Obi can produce and Randle can give us, Randle can get back these amount of assets or this player, and Obi can fulfill that role. But I also think Obi probably can't fulfill his potential with Randle here. And that may be part of it too. Not that Obi is looking to, told his agent to, hey, I don't want to be here. I want to get my shot. I don't think Obi's that kind of a guy, but, they're going to have to do something soon. Right? Because of his contract. So they got to make a decision, and they know he's not going to get the minutes over Randle. And so that's why I'm like, if they made that decision, if they traded Obi, I think it shows a commitment to Randle, and them thinking he's probably not going to get better than Randle. We don't think he's going to be better than Julius Randle. We don't think he's going to add more to this team than Julius Randle. So we can move him onto a spot where maybe he can flourish, and then we can get something back, and we can add a player that can maybe give us the same production that Obi's given us. This doesn't mean that Obi won't go to another team and be able to give more production, but we can pay someone else to give us the same production that Obi's giving us without stunting, a young guy's career.
How many games has Obi missed in this stretch?
Let me see. He played the first 2 games of the 8-game win streak. So he missed 6 games, and then the 5-game losing streak.
And then 2.
So he's missed like 12 games, something like that. 12, 13 games.
And we're 10 and
in that period of
8
time,
8 and 5 in that stretch,
something like that. Yeah, 8-5, 9-5, something.
Do you think?
Oh, wait a minute. 7 we won 6, lost 5, 7-5 in that time period.
7-5 in that stretch. Do you think his absence and our production in his absence has changed or opened up a possibility of what they were thinking in the front office?
I don't know, because one could argue that because even during the 8-game winning streak, the bench didn't have much scoring production.
That's true.
And one could argue that his 8 points per game, 8 to 10 points a game would have helped a lot, during that time. But the Knicks were on an 8-game, the Knicks were on an 8-game winning streak anyway. But even during the losing streak,
especially with quickly stepping into the starting
Right.
lineup, taking more away from the
Yep.
second unit. You know what I mean? Like, so now we needed somebody to make up for Obi's production, somebody to make up for Quickly production
Mm-hmm.
off the bench. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just wondering if this one had anything to do with the other, or just because we getting closer to the deadline,
Yeah. I mean, I think his his offense is definitely needed in that second unit, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
and he was on a good stretch
Yeah,
as well.
right. I think he changes the game, when he gets into the lineup because he's fast, gets up the floor, forces teams to get back on defense or maybe not send as many to the offensive glass, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? I think he definitely changes that second unit, and he can help in that second unit, in my opinion.
So I also did earlier. I did and I'm gonna talk to you about it. Maybe I'll implement it on your show. The Knicks and Bruises injury report, and Obi has been upgraded to doubtful for tomorrow's game.
Okay.
I mean, it's an upgrade.
Right.
You know
That's
what
an
I mean?
upgrade, no doubt.
So I just wanted to note that he is closer to returning. Being upgraded from playing out to doubtful. What do you think happens upon his immediately becoming available? Is it back to his normal rotation? Is it does that mean Sims is out completely? I noted I think it may be a three-man rotation at the center.
Yeah, I think
Based off of obviously fouls and things of
yeah,
that nature. Who's
yeah.
playing well and
I
not.
think I think that he I don't know if he comes right back in. You know what I mean? I mean, and they may not even, what should I say? They may not even suit him up. I think they're gonna want him to get back in shape first and then put him out there. But I guess when he is out there and he's ready, I think he'll play. That's what I think. I think Sims goes back to the bench.
Back to situational.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I think. I think he probably goes back situational.
and has Sims made any type of argument or case to play above Hartenstein or no?
I don't know. I mean, I think he probably has at least made a case, with the way with his defense and rebounding. I'm not sure if Tom Thibodeau goes there though. Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, the New York Knicks are monitoring Zach Lavine, and obviously there's a lot of trade talk going around. People trying to figure out ways to upgrade the New York Knicks. You know what I mean? And we got a call coming in, and this is a perfect time to bring this up because this guy, I'm sure is going to have something to say about it. So we'll get him on the line in just a second. But Tony, Julius Randle, man, he's been cooking. He's really been balling. You know what I mean? Last 10 games, Julius Randle, 28.6 points per game, 12.8 rebounds, 4.6 assists. He's shooting 48.5% from the field, 36.6% from three. He's only averaging 2 turnovers per game, not 2%, but 2 turnovers per game. You know what I mean? Is Randle making a case to be an all-star?
I think he's making the case right now. I want Brunson in there too, but I feel like if we getting one, is Randle. He
Mm-hmm.
looks like he has returned to form.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you can actually make a legitimate argument that this is not only better than 2 years ago, but this might be his best year so far of his career. His usage rate is actually down. Uh, his attempts are down slightly. His 3-point percentage is up. Is not up above 2 years ago, but second best of his career ever.
Mm-hmm.
Right now. currently, and that's with increased 3-point shots per game. You know what I mean? Up to almost 8, 7.5 something. I think his IQ has been the most notable thing. He's making the right decisions, making quick decisions. He's staying in his comfort zone when he's not behind the line. He's staying right in that mid range where he's deadly. I think so. And he's been on an incline. Like, you talk about the last 10 games. I mean, you could talk about December as a whole. I think those numbers are pretty astonishing. And he's trying to continue it. So he's got some more time to even increase these numbers.
Yeah. And, I think with Randle, like, I was watching the telecast last night, and I think they were saying, they feel like the game is slowed down to him some. Right. And I think I agree. It looks like the game has slowed down some for Julius Randle. He's not in double speed mode all the time now. You know what I'm saying? He's a little more relaxed when he's bringing the ball up or he's making a move to get his shot. All right. He's also learning how to manipulate the game a little bit more. You know what I mean? Which is part of the reason that he's able to get so many foul calls. We're seeing Julius Randle really kind of live at the line. And he's killing guys, and most of the time when he goes to the line, it's, the 1 dribble, 2 dribble pull up, and he's getting hit, and bam. He's got the little sweep through move, where he's getting to the line. Or even if he doesn't get to the line with that move, he's causing.
He's taking up team fouls.
Team fouls, exactly.
So a lot of times it don't even be a shooting foul, but they be in the penalty because that's the third swipe through foul that he drew.
That he drew. You know what I'm saying? So, like, and those parts of his game are flourishing. You know what I mean? So he's able to get to the line. He's knocking down the mid-range jump shot consistently, which is, a big part to any scorer's game. Is being able to knock down that mid-range jump shot. He's not seeing as many double teams because Jalen Brunson is out there, right? But when he is seeing the double teams, there are times when he gets bottled up, but he's not turning it over when he does get bottled up, but he's making the pass quicker. Sometimes he's making the pass before the double team even fully gets to him. You know what I mean? His passes are a little bit more crisp and in the pocket. So, he's really, really playing good, very, very good basketball. I mean, that 28.6 points per game over the last 10 games is 11th in the league over that period of time. And if you look at during the Texas Triangle, he was 3rd in the league in scoring over those 3 games. The only people above him was Luka and Giannis, and they were putting up like phenomenal numbers, like 40-something points per game.
60-point triple doubles.
Yeah, like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Julius Randle, I don't know if he'll be voted in as a starter. There's a lot of guys in the Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? That's gonna play the forward/center position that will probably be voted in over top of him. But I can see him being brought in as a voted in by the coaches. You know what I mean? I could definitely see that happening. Let me get to a phone call. Call you live. Tell me your name and where you're from.
Sam.
What's going on, my brother? How you feeling? We're on your favorite topic right now.
Happy New Year to you, my
Happy
brother.
New Year,
Happy
my
New
man.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Tony Crow and to the entire Knicks family out there. We're on my favorite topic.
Appreciate it.
So let's stay there.
Yeah.
He's definitely an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he's starting or he's definitely deserving of an all-star. But I don't think it's about Randle. I think it's more so on Brunson and the direction as a true point guard, as someone that's, consistent play,
Right.
At that pivotal position.
Right.
He's benefited from it.
Right.
Plus, what Crow said as far as his decision making. That's always been the thing with Julius since he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
First season, he did a lot of bowling pin moves, just turning, knocking people over.
No doubt.
You remember, it was bull in the china shop. You know what I'm saying? That type of play, and given a responsibility to be, from a coach, to be a point forward that we did not think we were getting.
Right. We
did not think we were getting someone that was going to be, handling the ball that much. But, it's the decision making with Randle, and in clutch moments, not faltering. I hate killing them for the Dallas game, but it was Randle in those pivotal moments down the stretch.
I hear you.
Missing free throws.
I hear you.
So I'm not killing him. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that to him because he's played very well. He's played very well. You can't knock him. Bar them trying to, so-called trying to improve the team. I'll believe it when I see it. That's just my standpoint with the Knicks. I'm just not gonna get into the next guy up and they're ponying up for this. No, I'm just not gonna do the banana in the tailpipe with them. So they just have to show something. But they've played well. They've played well over these last 15 games.
Yeah, over the last 15 games or so. Yep. Let me see. They 8-game win streak, 5-game lose streak. Now they've won 2 straight. Right. So that's 15 games or so. Yeah, 10-5 over those 15 games. Yeah. So
they played well.
Yeah. They played well.
Decisions that the coach had to make some tough decisions. But these were decisions that we had forecasted that was going to happen because of the surplus. Right. Because of guys that just doesn't fit what he wants to do.
Right.
I'll go to my grave. He did not want to sign Evan Fournier.
I mean, you could be right. Maybe he didn't. Maybe that wasn't his guy. But I mean, there were things out there. I don't know. You know what I mean? There were some reports out there that said, he was one of the people that said, yeah, go get, I go get Evan Fournier for me. I like Evan Fournier. Maybe he thought his defense was better. Maybe he thought his defense was better. I don't know.
And that's my see. You see, I'm not gonna go back there, sir. We just can't. You know what I mean? So you got to be positive and so forth. But it's mind. You know what I mean? It's just mind-boggling. When you look at the circumstantial evidence, because we're not in the locker room or whatever, we're not in the know. But it's like, come on. You really wanted that guy? You really wanted Cam?
I don't know. I don't know about Cam. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about Cam. And if it was that he really wanted Cam, I think with Cam, it was kind of like, hey, we don't have, you're trading Kevin Knox. He's not in the lineup. He's not in the rotation. And you're bringing me back a guy that you expect me to put in the rotation. I think, I think it was about that. And, I don't think he likes Cam's style of play. You know what I mean? So he's not playing him.
Okay.
He's not playing him. And he has every prerogative to not want to play Cam if he doesn't like his style of play, regardless of what fans think, and what his talent level is. If he's like, I don't think this guy fits what I want to do. I'm not gonna play him. He's the coach.
But okay, Tim. Here's part of the thing with me, with Tibbs, and why I've never believed him to be a winning type of coach. Very stubborn. That Dallas game, the Knicks are beating that. At no point in time I thought the Knicks were going to lose that game.
Mm-hmm.
They were beating Dallas pillar to post.
Right.
The majority of that game, they're beating Dallas pillar to post. You didn't even mind that Luka was getting his because Luka's going to get his.
Right.
Okay? It's not until you're seeing the game, you're like, okay, you got to throw a little something different at him defensively. Like, why are you continuing having him going up against 6'2", 6'3", maybe 6'4" guys? How does that stop the tidal wave, which is him, especially in overtime?
Right.
How does that stop the tidal wave, which is him?
I mean, so
everybody's tired.
But were you gonna bring in a cold Cam in overtime?
I wouldn't have brought in a cold Cam in overtime. He'd have been in my game plan.
Yeah. Okay.
He'd have been in my game plan for stretches because if nothing else, he's 6'8".
Nah, I get it.
7'1" wingspan.
I get it, and I was a proponent of playing Cam, right? But when the Knicks had 15-point lead, 17-point lead, maybe they had a 9-point lead with 24 seconds left, or whatever it was. 20, I know it was 33 seconds, but it had actually gotten down to like maybe 20, 24, or 26 seconds, and they had a 9-point lead. To be honest with you, at that point in time, I didn't even think anything about Cam. When the Knicks had a 9-point lead with under a minute, I didn't think about Cam at all. I didn't. I ain't gonna front. I was like, okay, all right, they got it done. But obviously they didn't.
I hear you. Well, yeah. Obviously they didn't, but not to hop on that. They back to winning on. So you can't knock them starting the year right. Let's see what management does.
Yeah, let's see
if
what
they do anything.
Let's see.
My stance on it.
Let me ask you this: given the way Julius Randle is playing, and what you're seeing from Julius Randle, and would you trade Julius? Obviously, for a superstar, you're going to trade anybody. But would you trade Julius Randle right now just to, you got people that are saying, well, get what you can for him now because his trade value is high. You trade Julius Randle?
I trade him, but not for get what you can now because you got to remember, Randle's still under 30.
Yeah, 28.
28 years old. So This is like his best. Technically, this should be like his best, stretch of basketball.
Right, for the next four.
So I'm not just giving him. I'm not just giving him up now. Their problem is they've let this linger for the past 3 years. We keep coming back to this. If let's say Randle, has a bad stretch at the end of the season, then what? His value tanks again? Then you got to hold on to him again. They keep going back to this thing here with Randle. It's like, if he's your guy, okay, build around him. If he's not your guy, let's solve this problem already. You've got.
I mean, I don't think they're looking at him and saying he's our number one guy long term, but I think they're probably looking at him, especially right now, and saying we think he's a piece to the puzzle.
Then if he's a piece to the puzzle, then keep finding more pieces.
Right. That's the thing. Got to keep finding more pieces.
Keep finding more pieces. Don't just let it, let him. The worst thing that happened with Randle was during that season, he's having one of the best forward seasons in Knicks history, right? Moving along, and all of a sudden, expectations came in. Atlanta came in. It was time for him to show up, and when he didn't show up, and he got the money, it's like, okay, where do I go? These guys are now, I'm now supposed to be the guy. And he had one of the worst statistical, supposed to be good seasons for a forward you'd ever see. Those are the worst 20, 10, 5 numbers. They didn't do nothing.
Talk about last season.
Yeah.
Poor shooting percentages.
He was erratic as far as his emotional states at times.
Mm-hmm.
He's
No
mad
doubt.
at the fans. Fans mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going awry, and he's the guy.
What about his redemption, though?
We giving him redemption for less than 50 games. Is that what we doing? Okay. Redemption. Holy water.
So far he's had a redemption. Right, he's got to finish the season, right? But last year at this same amount of games, it was he had just came off of an All NBA season last year at what are the Knicks 38 games in? At 38 games in, fans were done with him. So why can't you give him a redemption now?
No, because redemption is not that cheap. You redeem where you left off. Where you left off was first round exit.
Okay, fair enough. I spoke too soon. Let's see where we end up. But he's on pace for a redemption season.
Okay.
As far as him, I mean, we understand about the playoffs, but as far as him and being in the Garden and with the fans and the way he's playing, he's on pace for a redemption season. I mean, fans started chanting MVP the other night.
That's a fact.
But again, it's back to the point. It's much better. It's a lot easier when you have a dude, when you could turn to the left and you know that dude knows what he's doing.
No doubt. But also, over the last...
And that's part of the problem what he didn't have.
Right.
Let's acknowledge what he didn't have before this year and how frustrating it might have been. And this is not me giving him a pass because his behavior was unacceptable. But let's take the circumstances into account.
Yeah, he didn't have it. And then over the last 5 games, I mean, he put up some phenomenal numbers, and he didn't have a point guard there. I mean, you got it quickly out there, but we're talking about Jalen Brunson, put up phenomenal numbers. Now, would that last without Jalen Brunson? It might be tough for it too. But, during that stretch of games, he was able to maintain. Now Brunson is back. But you're right. I mean, having Jalen Brunson out there helps Julius Randle a whole heck of a lot.
Randle reminds me of in a boxing analogy, a good fighter that is leading all the way until he gets hit. And when he gets hit, everything changes. Strategy and everything changes.
Sounds like
he's got
Roy
to get
Jones
over
Jr.
that.
Roy Jones
He's
Jr.
got to get.
Yeah.
He's got to get over that. You know what I mean? He's got to get that second win. In order to make that next step, the lights are the brightest here.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. Melo had to deal with it. You know what I mean? I saw Melo drag this team to 3 straight playoffs. He had to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
And look, if the Knicks make the playoffs this year, that'll be 2 of the 4 seasons that Randle's been here that the Knicks have made the playoffs. And
that's something to hang your hat on.
Yeah, it is. And if he makes an All-Star team this year, it'll be 2 of the 4 seasons that he's been here. He's been an All-Star. let's see what
That's
happens.
something to hang your hat on.
No doubt.
But again, again, in the grand scheme of things, it's where does it leave you in your trajectory? Because it can't be all about Randle
No.
and Randle's All-Star appearance and Randle gets you to the play in of the first round. That's where we get, as Knicks fans, that this is where the frustration comes in. Because now it's then, instead of making that move, you make sideways moves. You can't do that again.
Nah, I feel you. The Knicks gotta make moves. They gotta add more pieces to the puzzle. I'm with it. But AD, man, I appreciate you.
All
Man.
right, family.
Appreciate your time.
All right, Tony. Joe, salute Knicks fans. Y'all know what it is.
No doubt. Happy New Year, brother.
Yeah, Happy New Year, bro.
All right.
All right, peace. What's your thoughts, Tony? Are you entertaining, if you're the Knicks and you're the front office, are you entertaining conversations for Julius Randle? I just seen in the chat, and Ayub Matan, he gave me a super chat the other day. I forgot to read it. He said, I'll take 3 first-round picks for Randle in a heartbeat. And then CAA Mafia said, if someone offers 3 first-round picks for Randle, are you doing it?
3 firsts.
3 firsts.
And what? Just salary filler to match? Not at this point.
I guess it would be salary filler to match, right?
Like not a significant player of a player with significant value. Because number one, I feel like no matter what the trade is, the chances of production match is slim.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think there's options out there of guys that you could kind of pick up and they could fill the Randle role, but it's going to be the same type of adjustment that we have talked about with Randle himself, how him coming into the situation year one, he wasn't the go-to guy. We had Mook. Year two, his first true opportunity as the number one guy, excelled in it, all NBA, most improved, playoff berth. But now going into that playoff series with Atlanta, they adjusted. Atlanta, you know what I mean? They figured out, what was the blueprint to kind of stop Randle and in turn stop the team. I think year three, the league kind of took the blueprint from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He had a frustrating year, and now we're on year 4 where he's kind of figuring out the adjustment and has some adequate help on his side. So we're not going to get the value in return by moving him. So in turn, you're saying 3 first-round picks, like start all over, like rebuild from scratch. That makes no sense. I mean,
that's what you would be doing. If you're talking about 3 first-round picks, you might bring back some players, but let's be honest, when you bring back those players, you're not going to bring, unless you're bringing back a young budding star or something like that, you're probably bringing back guys that you're going to eventually waive because you're trying to, Randle's just starting a 4-year contract. You're going to bring back guys that are going to free up money for you, right?
Now, here's the thing, Tim. I'm sorry to cut you, but now if you're bringing back a guy, and this is far-fetched because I don't think you get these guys and you get the 3 first-round picks. But if you're bringing back a guy like Tobias Harris or even Jeremy Grant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where a guy that they're good players, they've never been in that number one role. So you kind of putting them in, bringing them in. They're young enough to kind of be here for a couple years. Basically, exactly what we did with bringing Randle in. If you're bringing somebody in that type of environment, you know what I mean? Where now they could kind of, I don't even think they would be number one. They probably come in and be number 2 or number 3 based off of Brunson's arrival and Barrett's improvement. But that's the only scenario where I feel like it may not be equal value immediately, but you could get significant value. But again, you're not getting to Tobias Harris and a first, let alone
Right.
3.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not getting Jeremy Grant and 3 for, you know what I mean? So I don't think you get those type of players and that type of draft capital in
Yeah.
return for Randle at this
Yeah.
at this moment.
You know, I'm looking at the way Randle is playing. This is something that I've discussed and talked about time and time again. You know, people would ask, you know, do you think Randle could get better? And I would always say, I don't think, you know, speed, power, you know, maybe he doesn't get more speed. Maybe he doesn't get faster. Maybe he doesn't get stronger. But upstairs, he can get better. You know what I mean? And over the first couple of years that he was with the Knicks, you know, the first year, you know, half the season is when he became the guy. The first half of the season, it was Marcus Morris. Then you got the second year where, you know, he had an all-NBA season, and then teams adjusted to him. Nobody wanted to give him time to adjust back. And, you know, his behavior and all of that stuff was inexcusable. You know what I mean? And emotionally, he had to, you know, and it probably still has to grow up some, you know, but emotionally he had to mature, understand what the pressure is like and learn how to deal with it. And he's still working through that, I think. You know what I mean? But he still did learn something. You know, and no one wanted to, you know, he learned something from the first year that he was here, got better the second year. All right. So now teams adjusted to him. He had to learn, okay, how do I readjust back? Getting Jalen Brunson from the Knicks was a way to help Julius Randle readjust. But he's becoming a smarter player. You can see things being added to his game as we watch. And it's not just Julius Randle, obviously, it's all of our players, right? As we watch him, we see things get added to his game, to their games, and you're seeing things that are added to his game. And I believe he can continue to grow as a player, you know, and get better as a basketball player. Does that mean I think he can be the guy to take you to the championship? Probably not. You probably need someone who's better than him to do it. But I think he can be a major, and he is a major piece right now. And I think however it is that you get someone better than him, he can still be a major piece to a really good basketball team, you know? And he may end up being a guy that's giving you 20 points per game and 10 rebounds when you have your star that's giving you 30. You know, maybe he ends up being that guy, and that's okay.
True. Maybe it's 15, 10, and 5.
Right.
You know, but I mean, we had this talk off air, right? When we was talking about the basketball IQ and how it can develop. And I was telling you how I used to think that was something you either had or you didn't. And then, you know, I recently just started thinking about it. And, you know, with age, right? With experience, with maturity, I think the IQ becomes the more vital asset that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you get older. What did I say? You know, you work out, you get stronger. There's a cap on that. You can only get but so strong. You know what I mean? You can only get but so much faster. You can only get but so much better at certain attributes to your game. But the IQ, you never stop learning. You know, you could be a 60-year-old man, you could still learn some things.
Right.
You know what I mean? So as your basketball, I think you kind of broke it down back to me a little bit better. You know, when your IQ meets your how did you word it, Sim?
You know, your IQ reaches a certain level and your athleticism is at its peak. That's kind of when the basketball player is at his peak. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, your athleticism and speed and all that stuff starts to decline, but your IQ continues to grow. You know what I mean? But then your mind is telling you to do something, but your body can't do it. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, you still have a little bit of time as, you know, as your athleticism is powering down, that your body can still do the things that your mind is now telling it to do. You know, you look at LeBron, that's part of the way that he's able to continue to perform at such a high level because of his basketball IQ. Now, guys like LeBron and Kobe and Jordan, their IQ is high from a young age. And sometimes with some of those superstars, their IQ is high and their attributes have to catch up to their IQ. You You know what I mean? Where most players, they're
It's the other way around.
the other way around. The IQ has to catch up to their attributes.
And sometimes that determines the window of an individual's greatness. You know what I mean? Because he could have all the talent in the world, but if his IQ is developing slowly, he's never going to be at max level, or he may only meet the max level for 1 year.
Yep.
Because right after that, it may start going like this.
Yep,
and
exactly.
the IQ is there, but the skill level declines.
Right, and
I
you
said all
see that
to
with a
say
lot of
couple
players
things.
too. You see that with a lot of players where they have 1 or 2 years with an all-star level, and then they start dropping.
Yeah, another prime example. You mentioned LeBron, who I think is kind of the outlier, if you will. Like you said, LeBron, Jordan, Kobe. These guys were different. You talk about a guy like Vince Carter, right? And most guys who were athletes throughout their career, they reach a point where the athleticism leaves and they're either out the league or they have to adjust. And then the reason why a guy like Carter was able to play for,
Until he was
13,
41
14 years.
Yeah, until he was like 41 or something, right?
You know what I mean? It's because he adjusted. He stopped relying on the athleticism and started using the basketball IQ to sustain his career. But I said all that to say, I feel like this is the best I've seen Randle as far as basketball IQ. You know what I mean? Like decisions on the court. Even though his assists are down, it doesn't feel like that watching the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's making the right reads, the right decisions.
Right.
Even some of these cross-court passes that Clyde hates are right in the pocket.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is catch it and shoot it.
Yeah.
The
biggest complaint that I have with
better.
Randle this year is the jump pass. That's my biggest complaint. That jump pass. I can't stand it. I hate that jump pass. You know what I mean? I wish he stopped doing it. I don't know why nobody's telling him, stop with the jump pass. It hasn't hurt the Knicks yet, but at some point he's going to travel.
I think that's why though, Sim, because I noticed it early on. I pointed it out to you. I'm like, yo, I know you hate it, but it's become like a pattern of his now.
Yeah.
It's you know what I mean? Like, and it sucks because I know you be like every time, but it's not resulting in turnovers like it was previously.
Right. It's not resulting in it. I mean, he's doing it way more this year than I ever seen him do it. And sooner or later, there's going to be some teams that are like, listen, as soon as he jumps in the air, do this, and this. You know what I'm saying? And he's not going to have anyone to pass it to, and he's either going to throw it up or travel.
Because you think about it, Sim, he's not only utilizing it in the pass, it's becoming part of his free throw. You know what I mean? Like getting to the line or kind of just drawing the foul as well. It's to the point now, I feel like a lot of times he jumps in the air, feels a contact, and now he's making a decision. Before, he was always throwing it up. You know what I mean? Whether the whistle was blown or not. Now he's kind of trying to listen for the whistle. All right, they're not going to give me this one. And that's why he ends up passing it as opposed to just throwing it up. And then it looks like, yo, what the hell are you doing? Especially when you don't get the whistle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I agree. He does it a lot more this year. But it's like now it's like a part of his game.
Yeah, that joint still be killing me. I see him and I'll be like, dang, why is he in the air making that jump? But I used to do that when I was young. I used to do that jump pass. I jump in the air, I get ready to score, and then find someone to pass it to. When I did it because I was short. You know what I'm saying? So I needed to get up in the air so I could see and then make a decision while I was in the air. You know what I mean? Luckily,
and I think
had
a lot
hang
of times
time.
now he knows who he's passing it to.
That's true.
Before he, you know what I mean? So it may be something where he's trying to make the defender commit. The guy he's going to pass it to, that defender commit, or something like that. But now I feel you on that.
I see. D Moore 914 said Randle's best games we lost. I don't think that necessarily means it's because Julius Randle had like this great game or whatever, and that's the reason why we lost. sometimes it's because nobody else is performing and Julius Randle had to score or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Sometimes it happens that way.
And sometimes, to me, his best games, he may not even crack 30. Like last game against the Suns, to me, was one of his best games.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. But anyway, Julius Randle, man, I think he's gonna have a really, really good chance of being an All-Star this year. And 2 of the last 3 seasons in All-Star, that's something, I think. That's something. I think he's gonna be an All-Star this year, or at least have a really good chance of being an All-Star. I don't think he's gonna be a starter. I don't think fans are gonna vote him in, but
it will solidify him, amongst elite Knick representatives. You know what I mean? It's going to put him on an elite list of players as far as the Knicks,
right,
and the Knicks history. So,
right, and
that's nothing to sneeze at.
It's not, and he's going to get more respect across the league too. You know what I'm saying? And he starts to put his name in there with some of these guys who are perennial All-Stars. I'm not saying he's going to do it every single year, but 2 of the last 3 years, that's not bad. It's not bad.
And he's moving up the all-time leaderboard in a couple of different categories, which is pretty amazing in the sense that this is year 4. Same with Mitchell Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like blocks, he's going to be number 2 in blocks, like
right,
probably by the end of the year.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that means something. That means a lot.
It does, man. No doubt. Keep going, Julius, man. Keep doing your thing. Evan Fournier, let me ask you this. And, we'll end on this here. Just real, quick conversation. Is Evan Fournier back in the rotation for good?
I don't believe so. I'll leave it at that. I feel like, once RJ returns, it's gonna be, back to, the regular 9-man rotation. Excuse me. I honestly think once Obi returns as well, if the rotation expands, Sims is probably gonna be higher on the list as of right now. I think it was easiest to go with Fournier being the vet. I've been saving this. I'll tell you off air, but I think it was easier go with Fournier because he's the vet. He's gonna kind of just come in, fill the role, and then when it's time to go back to what it was, he's gonna go back to what it was. Also, he hasn't really had. It wasn't like Kemba coming back from his hiatus, his being situational and dropping 38. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't have that type of input. He came in, he filled some minutes, he performed the way he was supposed to. Obviously had some defensive lapses, but but you know what I mean? It wasn't anything that was like, oh man, maybe I made a mistake sitting him. It was almost he was used in the traditional situational sense. So
right.
So,
I mean, now,
I don't think so.
like Derrick Rose. I mean, Derrick Rose was out of the rotation too, but Derrick Rose is, has a contused knee or whatever it is. Obi Toppin, who knows? We haven't heard anything about Obi, so who knows with Obi.
No, he was upgraded to doubtful.
Oh, that's right. He was upgraded to doubtful. That's right. I mean, the Knicks need a wing in that lineup. See, I personally, I don't feel as if he's using the 9-man rotation. I don't think he's going to stick with a 9-man rotation. I think he's saving that spot for a wing that they bring in through trade, however they get that person, right? That's what I think. Saving that spot for a wing. And, maybe, and I see I spelled Fournier wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe if Evan Fournier can play defense, he gets back in good graces, especially if the Knicks are unable to bring in a wing, the type of wing player that they're thinking about. They might say, okay, well, you know what, we can go with Evan Fournier here, because I don't think Cam, I don't think Cam is even on his mind. You know what I mean? I don't know. For the time being, he's probably going to be in the rotation because Derrick Rose out, RJ still out, Obi Toppin out. So for the time being, he'll probably be in there. You know what I mean? And this would be his time to prove that he deserves to stay in there. You know what I mean? And stay in that 10-man rotation. Until the Knicks either decide to move him or whatever it is. Fan 94 Nick said RJ and Fournier for Lavine and picks. I guess the money would probably work. I'm not exactly sure how much RJ makes this season. Oh no, RJ's only making
works.
11. RJ's only making 11 million this season.
Yeah, but they would have to match his next year's salary in the return. So they theoretically, the only way for it to work is, I don't even know how that works, but you know what they were saying. Once he got that contract, if they trade RJ, they theoretically what they sent back had to been.
I understand. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What he's making next year. Right. I don't know how that works for us as far as what we take back.
But I think that's up until a certain date. I don't know what that date is.
Oh yeah, I don't think that date passed. I thought it was.
I don't know when that date is, but I know it's up to a certain date. That trade had to be like that. It may not have passed. I don't know.
No, I thought whatever the date was, theoretically, it was after the trade deadline anyway. So you know what I mean? Like, it's still in effect this year. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. If that was the case, he makes $23.8 million next season. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate your time tonight. We'll see what happens with everything, man. We'll see what happens with the Knicks on the trade front. We'll try to keep you updated with everything going on. Julius Randle, I think he's going to continue his hot play. One of these nights he's going to have a bad game, but then, will he get back on? I think he will. I think he's going to have a good shot to be an all-star. And we'll see what happens with Evan Fournier. He's in the lineup for now. See if he can earn his way back into that rotation. I do want to remind you that we have tickets to the Washington Wizards, not the Washington Wizards, the Knicks versus the Wizards in Washington, D.C. on January 13th. Also, the Knicks versus the Toronto Raptors on Martin Luther King's Day on January 16th. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a link pinned to the top of the YouTube chat. There's also a link in the description of this video. All right, so make sure you go and check those out, ladies and gentlemen. Tony, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Nah, man, just a pleasure to be on with you again. Sorry I missed yesterday. Had to give my daughter's mom a jump, but yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
I'll see you after the game tomorrow.
All right, no doubt.
Or pregame, too.
Almighty Finesse said, why in Washington? Just curious. You know why? Because I live in D.C. I live outside of D.C., so I go to all the games. Normally, I go to all the games when the Knicks come to D.C., and there's a lot of Knicks. As a matter of fact, the crowd would probably be 65-35 New York at this game coming up on January 13th. A lot of Knicks fans here in D.C.
And we trying to get these road trips going.
Exactly.
This is the first one.
We'll be looking to do Philly, Boston, all up and down the East Coast. So, we're trying to get fans who live in certain areas outside of the city, New York City. We're trying to get fans who live in certain areas to be able to get together in those areas, right? Charlotte, Atlanta, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? So this is the first one. And, we're going to try to make that happen throughout the season. And, we get some fans that travel to those locations. We'll get fans that are already in those locations. So there we go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm up out of here. I appreciate your time. And I see D-Mo 914 said Philly's closer. He's with that. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of people out there. As a matter of fact, we were trying to do Philly in November, but it was really, really close to the home opener. And it was like, man, we couldn't squeeze the date in. But, we're trying to get around. If we don't get to a whole bunch of them this year, we definitely will next year. But, this season, this is the first one.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So, just stay on the lookout, ladies and gentlemen.
The Ron Williams says Cleveland. I've been thinking about Cleveland. I don't know what that ride is for Houston, but I know it's like the same distance for Cleveland to get to you. For me to get to you to get to Cleveland.
To get to Cleveland. For me,
so I was thinking about
that's a grip. That's almost, I'm going to say that's probably, I don't even know. It's probably 8 to 10 hours or something. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll not this year, Deron. Maybe next year we do Cleveland.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Appreciate your time. One.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.